Hi everyone. Thanks to everyone who's joined us so far and looking forward to today's session. If you'll just give us a few minutes to wait for a few more people to join and we'll get started. Today will be a bit different because it will mainly be me speaking to you about the updates that have happened with the company over the last 6 months or so. So looking forward to it. Okay, awesome. So thanks everyone for joining us today. For those of you who don't know me, this is Mo. I'm one of the co-founders of the company, and today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be giving you a few updates about what's happened with the platform. Initially, I'll just quickly go over what the platform does if anyone isn't a community member already. And then I'm going to dive into giving product updates. So it'll be a bit different for many of you who've joined our community sessions regularly. You'll know I usually have someone with me from the community to talk about one of the implementations that they've been doing. But today we felt like it was a good time to share with you a few updates on what's happened. We noticed that there are some features that we're deploying that sometimes you may not have been aware of. So we've been working on improving our communication and regarding these new updates through our newsletters and such. But today I'm also going to be giving you a bit of an overview of everything that we've added in the last few months. So thanks again for joining us. And with that in mind, let's get started. So, as all of you know, really the way we see it is many of the processes we have today are planned, tracked, and communicated on Excel and in Word documents, which are ultimately manually collated by pulling data together from different systems like Aconex or Viewpoint or Autodesk Construction Cloud. And that's the case regardless of who I am within a project, whether I'm a design manager, a BIM manager, a sustainability manager, a commercial manager, and even more recently seeing more QA, and QC coordinators. They all pull data from these systems and then update Excel-based trackers with this information. And that causes all kinds of challenges from increasing risk to decreasing productivity. And where we come in is we provide customizable hubs that connect information point solutions and construction teams together. So rather than having Word and Excel files, you can bring the information into a single hub where this information can then be accessed by supply chain members and they can see the information that's relevant to them. And then Morta interfaces with a wide range of systems. So we've always had interoperability at our core, and we've always been able to ingest data in various ways. But we've been making it easier through one-click integrations, as I'll be talking about in a second, as many of you have tried already. Now, the first key use case that all of you are starting with is streamlining information planning and automating tracking. So often you'll move your requirements and your reference data and your responsibilities and standards and procedures into the platform instead of having it on Excel and Word. That will then connect with a master tracker, often known as a master information delivery plan, where the different supply chain members can access the system. And Morta then interfaces with a wide range of external solutions from CDEs like Viewpoint, Aconex, and Asite, and Autodesk Construction Cloud to the planning systems in order to align plan dates. Now, ultimately, that helps you reduce risk, automate tracking, plan versus actual, and provides you with near real-time visibility and leading indicators of performance. But while you're all starting the journey there, one of the things that's also happening is we're getting more and more feedback about other functions that we can ultimately support. And at its core, the way we see it is many of you will start with things like requirements and quality tracking, and information management and information tracking. You can move into things like requirement tracking. So we'll talk about the Building Safety Act and how that links in to some of the work that we've been doing. But equally, it could be for things like supply chain, workforce tracking, quality control tracking, and so on and so forth. And in the short term, we end up supporting you in streamlining one of the workflows, but in the long term, you move in to other workflows that we're supporting. And I'll be talking about a few examples of these later today when I will be showcasing some of the new templates and the updates in these. I think one of the key things we've learned, and we always like iterating, is the fact that the best way to introduce Morta, generally speaking, into your organizations. One of the key things we've learned in all of these implementations is that the best way to do it is by doing it gradually and getting buy-in and building know-how as you deploy it. So, for example, we're seeing, depending on the company and depending on the gaps that you have and the challenges that you're facing, often starting with things as simple as reporting on the CDE data and auditing the data in there can be quite beneficial. And then moving things like information requirements and execution plans and the information delivery plans on the platform. And as you do that over time, you can eventually start moving more information management resources onto the platform and start moving more of these trackers that exist in general functions onto the platform. So we highly encourage a gradual approach to implementation. We think that it's important to think about bringing people on the journey. So ultimately, there is a bit of, well, one of the powerful aspects of the platform is that it's as familiar as a spreadsheet. There's still slightly new ways of thinking and changes in behavior. And we're seeing that if you start with processes that are automated, like CDE reporting, that often adds a lot of value and introduces people to the capabilities of the platform quite quickly and the benefits of it in the long term, while getting their buy-in to understand what kinds of other processes you can be supporting them in, and so on and so forth. Now, ultimately, we think that this slide is quite important. I don't bring this up often, but really the way we think about it is you choose Morta for various reasons over a lot of the other solutions that exist. And that ultimately is what really guides our product roadmap. So the first key thing is having control, flexibility, and scalability. I think that's initially one of the main capabilities of Excel that companies have enjoyed, the fact that you can flex it and build on it, the trackers that you want for the challenges that you have in the way that you think is right. And we wanted to make sure that we provide you with a platform that has that degree of flexibility. And we keep on going back to that route and ensuring that's the case, which is why there's been a big drive, for example, introducing one-click integrations and relying on external services that we may build on the platform. Much less, a lot of everything in the platform is around giving you the ability to build the things that you want in the way that you see fit. But to break it down slightly, one of the key things in the platform has always been the fact that it's interoperable with various solutions. And we think about that in various degrees. So there are one-click integrations that I'll showcase today. But there's also the ability to import data via CSVs or import or build on top of the API to ingest the data that you want. But at its core, you can bring in data from various systems into the platform. The second key aspect is you can build relationships between different data sets, which then enables you to ensure consistency between these different data sets and the way the information is entered. The other key aspect has always been around standardization and reuse of data. So there's a lot of data that you'll create that you'll need more than once. For example, a list of team members or a list of milestones. You want to be able to use this information in various contexts as much as possible, and we try to make that as easy as possible for you. Automation and analysis. So that's always, again, been one of the key reasons that people choose the platform. You want to automate and streamline your processes and make them less intensive. And there are various ways, both within the platform directly, but also by extending the platform and integrating it, for example, with things like Power Automate. You can automate more and more of your processes. By collecting consistent data, organizations hope to get better insight and better reporting. And we've always looked to support that via things like Power BI dashboards, Power BI being able to read data from Morta through the API. But we've also begun introducing concepts related to chart views that I'll talk about in a bit. And while imports and exports is always an interesting topic, but ultimately, while we are encouraging this move to the cloud and to connecting data, we acknowledge that there are certain ways of working currently, like submitting information on common data environments, or sometimes having to work with various teams that may not be on Morta. So we enable importing and exporting data, whether it's exports to Word, PDFs, or Excel. Data integrity and quality. So one of the key benefits of moving into a database-driven world is effectively that you can connect the data, define your data schemas, and ensure that the data that's being collected is consistent. And that supports in higher quality data, and that's always been a key tenet in the platform. And finally, audit trails is one of the aspects that's extremely important. We find that understanding how the platform is being used, how people are contributing data, and how that data is evolving over time is one of the major benefits of moving to this type of world. And that's an area where we're investing and we'll be investing more. At the bottom, you'll see a few other things that we think ultimately differentiate the platform given our focus on the industry. First, there's our community. So every one of you who's online now is someone who works in construction and works in the built environment and is looking to manage information better within construction and the built environment. And that ultimately enables us to means that over time you can share ideas and learn from each other. And one of the key aims of the community sessions has always been about bringing together these best practices and these highlights in order for you to see them and learn from them and take inspiration from them. And we're looking to build on that more. So I'm going to talk about how we're going to be doing that in a bit as part of our roadmap and some of the updates that have happened in the last few months. The second key aspect has always been about support. I know that everyone who works with our teams tends to appreciate the know-how that the client-facing support team and digital transformation leads have, their understanding of the processes and so on and so forth. And we're looking to make that more accessible, and I'll talk about that in a bit also. And then finally, templates has always been very key, because one of the things that we quickly learned over time while implementing the platform is, while it's great to give a blank sheet or a canvas that you can build on what you want, we found that we can play a very big role in making sure that you're maximizing the use of the platform and the benefits of the platform. And really, you're starting with best practice that you can then build on and modify to suit your specific needs. I think that this context of what we really see as the core differentiators of the platform and why we choose us is key to understanding how we think about the roadmap and like some of the areas that we're focusing on. So that's why I like by focusing on just giving that overview of what we really see differentiates us to begin with. So if you'll just give me a second. Okay, perfect. Okay, great. So today I thought I'd do something a bit different. Rather than giving you a few slides on the updates, I just want to walk you through them directly and the changes that have been made. And one of the things that we're really hoping to do is to start engaging with you through our community hub much more. I know many of you already access our community hub and view sample resources and our help desk there, but we're planning on becoming more rigorous in the way that we share some of our like updates on the platform directly, but also through email as we've been doing through the monthly newsletter. And one of the things that we've introduced is a table that effectively, as you'd expect from us, table that has a list of the different updates that have happened on the platform. And we've like split them up into different areas, like some of the features or some of the integrations that we think are important and that have happened recently, all the way to some general updates. And as everything does, I'm sure this will evolve over time. But we thought this is a good enough structure to begin with. So one of the biggest areas that we've been investing in over the last few months has been about integrations. And one of the things that we know is that many of you have systems like Asite, like Procore, like Viewpoint, and like SharePoint and various other systems that you, this is should be here. Yeah, one of the key things that we often see is that you generally have these integrations and systems that you want to be able to pull data from. And the way that we initially did it was we enabled you to import CSVs, so to speak. The second thing that we did was we started importing data effectively via API directly for you. And then more recently, we began beta testing our one-click integrations. And many of you have been using the one-click integrations over the last 6 or 7 months. And what I'll do today is I'm going to show you quite quickly what that looks like on the platform and talk you through some of the improvements that we did throughout the last few months there. So generally speaking, when I go into any hub, I can create a new table and I can call this viewpoint, for instance, and then I can create a new table. And then when I do, I have the option to sync data. And you can see there are various systems that we've supported syncs from. The way this effectively came about has mostly been driven by our community feedback. So we've seen, for example, we saw many of you pulling in data from Viewpoint for documents, for instance. So we supported that. We then got feedback asking us to pull data related to RFIs, for example, from Viewpoint, and we started supporting that. We've also done the same thing for ACC. So we started with documents. More recently, we're seeing more more of a need to pull data from checklists and forms within ACC. And so I think just what this literally just went live. We've done the same thing for A-Site. For A-Connect, we can support documents and workflows. Procore, we support documents, and for Revisto, we support issues. And the idea with the one-click integrations is that we want to make it as easy as possible for you to pull that data that you have in various systems. So if I take something like Viewpoint, I can select an enterprise, I can select a project, and then I can sync data. And once I've done that, that pulls in all of the metadata that's accessible via API for me into the schedule. And this will be updated on a daily basis. Now, one of the things that we've also been hearing from you recently is that in certain periods of time, for example, when you're going through a handover process, you may want to be able to refresh multiple times during the day. So now you can actually do that. So you could switch, you could have the auto refresh on so that it happens on every day on midnight, or you can in addition to that, switch back to manual sync and have do multiple syncs during the same day in order to better understand the progress of delivery. So you can, in many ways, then get the best of both worlds, where there is the auto refresh on a daily basis. But if there is a need for more frequent updates during the same day, you can also achieve that via manual syncs, which has been recently introduced. We can also sync data from other systems like Revisto, for example, and that gives you that's an example of, as I mentioned, it's not just documents. Initially, it was all focused on documents because many of you are starting with information delivery planning. But we also introduced it for Revisto because we saw many of you importing the data from it. And as I mentioned, we've introduced things like RFIs and TQs from Viewpoint. And from ACC, we've just started introducing checklists. So there are various types of data sets that can be synced into these spreadsheet-based views. And it doesn't need any technical knowledge. The last thing I think that's worth mentioning is the same sync functionality can be extended to sync some data from Morta itself. So if you wanted to understand what resources are being used, what members you have within a project, what comments you have in a project, you can sync that as well. And that can then be joined or looked up to various other data sets of yours. Awesome. The second key aspect is around automations. And when it came to automations, there were many cases where you asked us to do things like send email notifications, for example, or create IDS exports from the information requirements tables that are within Morta, create placeholders in different CDEs. These are all examples of ways that you could effectively extend the capabilities of the platform based on some of the specific needs that you as an organization may have. And one of the challenges that we often found was that became an example where we were taking away control from you in building these automations and extending on like Morta's webhooks and APIs and building things as the services team on your behalf that you couldn't then access and you couldn't control meant that you lost a degree of flexibility. So we released the Power Automate connector in order to enable you to start achieving these types of things. So for instance, you may want to create IDS exports from the data requirements that are available within the platform. It's just Power Automate is loading. So we created effectively this flow that reads data directly from Morta and generates an IDS export that's in line with building smart specifications. And this is an example of a flow that can be created. Another example of a flow. So you can see here, we've like tried to do the hard work effectively for you in terms of what should the flow look like, and then you can be provided with this to make the changes that you want or you need over it. So for example, if you were to change your column names, you then have control over the mapping of this, and so on and so forth. In the same way, we've also done an example for creating placeholders on the various CDEs. So that could be, for example, creating placeholders on systems like Viewpoint, could be ACC, and so on and so forth. There are many other ways that you could use Power Automate. So for example, if you wanted to trigger emails and notify someone by email that they have a certain task or of a certain delay, you could do that. And you could push data from one Morta table to another Morta table, and you can do all kinds of custom logic. And that's the idea in giving you the ability to build something on Power Automate and integrating more closely with Power Automate. So that's all accessible through the Morta connector that exists within Power BI. Sorry, within Power Automate. I'm just trying to find the I'm struggling to navigate Power Automate. Itself, 1 second. I just want to get to the button to add. Just click this. So generally with Power Automate, I can just add an action, and you can see here when I add an action, there's a Morta connector, and I can see all of our API endpoints are effectively accessible by here. So for example, if someone just joined your project, you could create a trigger email that sends them a welcome email, as an example. Or if someone submitted a form entry, they could get an email with the data that they filled out in the form, and so on and so forth. So really the idea is we're going to build a library of these automations for you over time that will make it easier and easier for you to achieve that. The reason we chose Power Automate specifically initially to build a lot of our examples is the fact that you'll already within your organizations be using Power Automate to a degree. We're seeing that it's often used in construction over solutions like Zapier. So we thought that that would be the best place to start and to give you access to some templates and so on and so forth. The IDF export one, to be honest, is one of the most complicated ones for various reasons, but like some of the others would be more basic. We just wanted we wanted to start with something like IDS, or we wanted to give you an example of IDS because we know that that's something that many of you are actively thinking about and are actively trying to do, especially when it comes to pushing requirements, especially when it comes to pushing the requirements into something like CDK. Awesome. So I hope like the point of today really, as I said, it's not intended that much to be a presentation per se, as much as just the showcase of some of the updates that have happened. And that's why I'm going through effectively this list that you have and that you would be able to access from your community hub. One of the other key items has been an integration with Revit. And we spoke about that in the community session that I believe was in February with the team from D-Roots and the team from Digital Gorilla, where we talked about how we were able to push data from Revit to Morta. And effectively, if you have the latest version of the D-Roots plugin, you could export data from Revit into Morta. What we've also done is we've started creating a template for what that could look like. We're seeing that a lot of the data that you often would like to export is related to stage 5 and 6 information. So I'll talk about that in a bit. But one of the key things has been that you wanted to push data from Revit into Morta, and we can now support that. Equally, what we also heard from many of you was you wanted to pull data back into Revit from Morta. So when it comes to stage 5 and 6 information, I'm just going to skip for a second and open the template. When it comes to stage 5 and 6 information, we saw that you wanted to be able to push the data into Morta itself. But then once you've done that, you also may want to fill in some data directly on Morta. So we're seeing for stage 5 and 6 information that can be more efficient. So that can be done. And I'm actually starting to hear feedback from some of our users who have been doing that and have said that they've reduced a process that used to take a few days, 3 to 4 days, to a process that takes a few hours. And one of their next aspirations is to get that to a few minutes effectively through what we're achieving on the platform. But the idea here is very much I could fill in my data for stage 5 and 6 information, and then I can pull that back into Revit via the D-Roots plugin SheetLink, which is free and available to use for everyone. Again, the reason why we went down the SheetLink direction was rather than creating a new plugin for you that you would have to then use and learn, we wanted to partner with a plugin provider that many of you already trusted and that already had a lot of the needs that you were asking for. And that's why we facilitated exports and imports via SheetLink to D-Roots. Now, when it comes to tables and views, there have been a few things that we've been working on and that we've released in beta. The first is pie charts and bar charts. So as I said, we always made it a point to make sure that you could pull data into Power BI. So if I were to go into one of our templates for information delivery planning, we always had a summary report for what you can display in Power BI. And we always wanted to encourage the use of Power BI for various reasons. Ultimately, it's a dedicated business intelligence tool, and it has a lot of the capabilities that are needed to for you to create the visuals that you're looking for. Having said that, we got some really good feedback from you about two different things. The first was that Power BI's licensing model doesn't support you when it comes to sharing information with supply chain members and creating the reports that you need and sharing that report with the supply chain member. The second is that some people may want to be able to create reports on the fly. So the same type, every person can create a pie chart or bar chart on Excel. People need to be able to have a very similar ability of flexibility to create the visuals that they need quite quickly. And we thought that those two reasons meant that it was worth Morta looking into creating chart views. And that's a new type of view that we're supporting within the platform. So I'm just going to show you how that gets set up quickly. So I'm just accessing a table. When I go create a table, I can create a chart view. So I could just create a new chart view. I'm just going to do that. And then I can specify the type of chart that I want. So for example, if I wanted a bar chart and I wanted it by the label by status and a count of the number of improvements, I could use that to create my chart view. And you could see that this was very simple to create. And effectively, the goal is any of the administrative users would be able to do that quite easily. And then this would be shareable, with different supply chain members. And we thought that's the key goal really here. So we're not trying to have every type of chart. For the time being, we've introduced pie and bar charts. We're planning on expanding these based on the feedback that we get. We've also had some feedback from you related to colorization options, and these are things that are on the roadmap. I also saw a question come in now regarding matrix view, regarding Gantt views and calendar views. And I'll talk about that in a second. The other key improvement has been introducing dynamic views. So we've always had dynamic views, but they were always relatively complicated to implement, in that you needed this concept of cell IDs previously, but we've made that much easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how that would work very quickly. I'm going back into my community highlights hub. I'm going to go into a table called information delivery plans. And within information delivery plans, you'll see that I have a column called originator. And I have this view that's been created specifically for the task team or the supply chain team. And you can see this is filtered on user tags with values, and it's become literally this simple. So if I filtered on tag values instead of specifying a value like architect or con or MOR and so on and so forth, this will automatically filter on what I'm tagged with here. So for example, I'm currently tagged as architect. I'm going to change that so that it's civil. And you'll see when I go into the specific view now, it only shows me civil related data. If I were to go back here and change this so that I'm an architect, this will now show me information for me as an architect. So it's become much easier. Now all it is just a filter type based on tag values. And as long as you've set that column to tag, you can very easily establish that filter, and it doesn't require any technical knowledge again. Now, just to go back here, I think I'm conscious of time. I think that it's also worth noting that we've added a number of templates. So those templates and are all available to you either from the community hub, where you can access these, or you can access them directly from your templates module. So create from template, and then you can navigate the different templates that we've added. We're going to be adding more of these. We're also going to be sending you more detailed emails around each of these templates, especially if you're not using a specific template, or we know you've used information delivery plans and you could benefit, for example, from our risk tracker. We'll make sure to let you know. as we launch these templates, but many are already available for you to look at. Now, the next bit is I've just gone through. I hope you could see that over the last 6 months we've added a lot of things when it comes to the product, and we've been really trying to invest in usability and in making the platform easier to use, while focusing on the reasons why you choose us, and the main things that you get value out of from the system. And this keeps going back to the idea. Morta is focused on construction, and given our focus on construction, you'll continuously see us making improvements that are in line with the industry's needs, more broadly speaking. There have been a few other things that we've also done that we'll also share information about in the newsletter for this month. But we know that many of you are starting to use are effectively coding up various things that extend Morta's capabilities. So we're establishing a community GitHub where you can get access to some of the code that you may find relevant for various tasks that you're trying to achieve. So very similar to how we want to achieve how we want to have Power Automate libraries. We want to make sure that there's that code that's available for you should you want to use it. So for example, we had experimented with parsing IFC files. That's available in the GitHub repository, and so on and so forth. We're going to be introducing a Slack community. So we want to make it easier for you to chat with each other, answer questions for each other about various day-to-day problems that you may be facing. So we're going to introduce a Slack for the community that you'll be getting an invite to. And we're going to see how that goes, and we're going to be looking to improve that continuously based on your feedback. We've done a lot of updates to our API documentation, which has been key to some of the Power Automate work. So now every endpoint has been documented on the API. And most recently, we've also been really happy to be able to say that the UK BIM framework guidance has now moved on the platform, and you can access it and you can view it regardless of whether you are on Morta or not as a customer. And you can also benefit from the advanced AI search capabilities. And the last thing that's worth noting in terms of updates, which I think is very, very important, we want to make the platform very easy for you to use, which is why we are investing a lot in usability. But we also want to make it easier for you to be able to find the information that you need directly on the platform. So we've been updating our help desk material, and you can see effectively for the different key modules we have within the platform, we now have different help resources. They're also accessible via our advanced search. And the idea is that over time, we want to make it easier and easier for you to create on the platform without needing us not necessarily to help you, even though we're there. We're finding that many of you just want to get on with it, and really by enriching our help desk material and by improving the usability, we hope to help you achieve that more, because we don't want you to be dependent on our support. Now, I'm just going to go back to great. So the next thing I want to discuss, I just took the last 30 minutes effectively to go through some of the updates. Obviously, there has been a lot that has happened over the last 6 months, so just needed to take some time effectively on that and to share some of these with you. I obviously focus on the key features or the key updates that have happened. There are many, many more very small updates and detailed improvements that have happened based on your feedback and based on our experience. They may be things as simple as like highlighting where someone creates a resource, or simplifying the user interface, or organizing a lot of these menus better, so to make it easier for you to find what you need. So usability really has been at the heart of everything that we've been doing and what we'll continue to focus on. Just to walk you through, I'm already seeing some discussion around some of the feature, like some types of features that you're looking for. So I just wanted to give you a quick update around that. First, one of the key goals is we want to make audit trails as easy as possible for you to understand. So we want to make it easier for you to see changes that have happened. Now, one of the things that's really unique about the platform, as I've said previously, is that we log everything, and that's quite powerful because it means that you can understand who's viewing the data. You can understand who's adding what to your data, and it's extremely granular in the way that it's being logged. But we want to make it even easier for you to understand. One of the things we're going to do in the short term is introduce more effectively Power BI-based dashboards that will enable you to understand the changes. But we're also planning on baking in more and more of this into the platform to make it as accessible for you as possible and to make it very easy for you to understand the changes that are happening to the documents or to the tables and so on and so forth. We're getting a lot of feedback on exports. One of the specific areas of feedback we got is like the ability to have a footer and a header would be important or would be highly beneficial to create compliant documents. So we're going to invest in that. Ultimately, the reason why we have export to Word is we want you to still be able to make that final level of customization where you need to. But we're planning on introducing some of these key things like headers and footers in due course, and having slightly improved styling options. Ultimately, it is a world that we're trying to make obsolete over time. Like, we don't want you to be reliant on Word and PDF exports. So it's a balancing act between catering for what you need today as companies and enabling you to move towards a world where we don't need Word and Excel documents altogether in the future. Integrations, we're planning on, well, I had this as it was going to be done effectively in this quarter, but you could see earlier it's already been done. So now I can sync data from checklist, but this got pushed this morning, I think. And this will be really beneficial for things like quality control tracking. We're also planning on introducing integrations with ProjectWise because we're going more and more into infrastructure. Many of our customers are using Dalux, and we're looking at via a combination of IDS and BCF to integrate with Celebri from OpenSmart, from Building Smart, sorry. And I just called them OpenSmart, which then one of the other key areas we're planning on working on is security and our certifications there. So as many of you know, we already are Cyber Essentials certified. We're pursuing Cyber Essentials Plus. We're also pursuing ISO 27001, and we're also going to be working on the DART certification. Now, the key thing is often many of you are initially using Morta for use cases that mostly involve metadata and aren't very security sensitive. But we're seeing that as you use it more, there may be a need for us to hold some of these certifications, and that's why we're pursuing them. Ultimately, we know we work in highly secure industries and highly secure projects and highly sensitive projects, and we want to make sure that that we have the governance that we need and the compliance that we need in order to support you as you look to use it on different types of projects and use it for more functions. when it comes to views, and it looks like there are a few discussions going on in chat, but Gantt view and matrix view are two views we're thinking about quite a lot. A lot of the information that we get from you will often be in matrix views, and that's something that we're planning on supporting. We're also looking to support Gantt views in the future. I saw something around a calendar view. We hadn't really thought of a calendar view previously. Would be good to understand uh, more about why a calendar view would be needed. So we'll make sure to follow up on that. But we're looking for feedback on the views that would essentially be most valuable to you. And so far, we've identified matrix views and Gantt views will be quite important. Chart views, we're already getting good feedback on. We're hearing you want some more colorization options and a few further improvements when it comes to like visualizing the chart, and that's an area we're planning on investing on in later this year. And while we think the approach behind Python and scripts is the right way to go, we want to make that more and more accessible for you. So we're building a library of scripts that you can then very easily load into your projects. Now, this one may be a bit less interesting in that it's less functional, but we're actually hearing a lot about this from many of you. So everything that ranges from, and I've already seen some messages here between Andy, Andrew, and Mike around Nico around the sidebars and the ability to group hubs and folders, and that's an area where we plan on making improvements. And that's generally part of the like interface cleanup. We're also looking to ensure we're already like can support effectively if needed. We can have a specific account admin invited into all hubs. But we're planning on giving more control there in due course, and on having on demonstrating how a central hub could be used for the reference data effectively that's needed. So these are some of the key areas that we're planning on making improvements based on the feedback that we've been getting from you. We highly welcome any feedback that you have. So if you have any thoughts on areas where we should be investing and looking more closely to, please do let us know. We highly rely on your feedback and seeing how you're using the product to determine what we're investing in and what we're making better. Really, our core focus is improving reliability and usability. We think that the platform has many of the key features that you need already, and we think that investing in usability will make it much easier for you to scale the usage of Morta, which is why we've been really focused on that. But of course, we're also investing in some of these key things that we're seeing. You need like some of the integrations, making audit trails more accessible, making scripts even easier to use, and just enabling you to administer the platform all a bit better. So I hope you found this helpful. And one of the things that I'd also love to get your feedback on over time, as you see us using these roadmap like items and pointing to them in our newsletters, I would love to get your feedback on how we communicate with you and what we're sharing with you, because that's also really helpful for us. One of the things that we'll also be running a poll on is whether we should move these types of sessions so that they're on Teams directly, and so that you can then come in and ask us questions and interact more closely with us. But we're going to ask you for your votes, and we'll go with what you prefer. I'm just going to see if there are any questions in chat that I may have missed. Yeah, I see there's been a discussion around Power Automate. Yeah, the idea is Power Automate is there as a tool for you to further extend the functionality of the platform. It's not a must-have, but if you wanted to achieve more, you could with Power Automate. And where I saw that there's a discussion around Gantt table views. And yeah, as I mentioned, that's an area that we're looking at and we're investigating. Folders at the hub level would be good. That's also something we're thinking about, like how do we group what's in the hub level, which I mentioned in on one of the items related to usability. And more integrations, which is an area that, as I said, we're also going to look to develop further. So I hope you found the session today useful. Thanks a lot for taking the time. As I mentioned, today what I really wanted to do was give you a bit of an overview of some of these key updates. I hope there is a feature that you weren't aware of that has come to your attention today, and you can start leveraging better. Uh, as I always say, we highly welcome your feedback. We really appreciate you taking the time and you being on with us today. And I hope you found it useful. And we'll be back in a few weeks with another session with one of our community members. So thanks for joining us today, and have a really good day.